Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut, too. I hope you like this video and subscribe. Now, we're going to do a little compare and contrast. Before we get into it, I need you to subscribe and like this video. Very important. This channel's doing really well. I need you to subscribe. I need you to share the video. If you have Met fans that are friends, or if you have Yankee fans that are friends that are angry, and you go back and forth, you want to share this video. I keep forgetting to tell people to share the videos. Very important. On social media, send them in a text, do whatever you got to do. Because we have a lot of fun here. I have a lot of fun here. I love goofing on the players. I love goofing on the Yankees in particular. But let's do a serious video for now. A compare and contrast. The New York Mets versus the New York Yankees. Who's in a better position in the future? The Metropolitans or the Yankees? The New York Mets spent a lot of money this offseason. They had one of the biggest payrolls in the history of baseball, but they bombed. They failed. They did terrible. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, with that in mind, the Mets pivoted and got rid of all these older players. They got rid of Max Scherzer. They got rid of Justin Verlander. They traded David Robinson. They traded Tommy Pham. They traded Mark Hanna. They traded Eduardo Escobar. They traded Dominic Leone. How Dominic Leone went and the Mets got a prospect for him, I'll never understand that. They picked him up off the scrap heap. But anyway, so Steve Cohen said, enough is enough. I've seen enough. And he pivoted and got rid of all these older players and said, we're going to go down the route of the youth. As you know, baseball's played by much younger players now. Guys in their 30s, it gets to a point where they start to break down. There's no more amphetamines in the game, believe it or not. There's no more, there's not supposed to be any steroids in the game. Although I noticed that a young player in the Mets system, Christopher Larraz, who I did a video on the Prospect Guy. You didn't subscribe to the Prospect up, by the way. And I'll put the link in the description. But the whole thing is that the Mets were willing to eat all these contracts. I guess according to what's being said is that Steve said that it was already money spent, so he spent the money and moved these players to bring in big prospects. The Mets have a young core of guys in the middle of their prime. Lindor's under 30, Pete Alonso's under 30, Brandon Nimmo is 30, but he's playing really well, playing every day, which he's been able to stay healthy. Jeff McNeil, who's 31, he's older than the other guys, is playing well again after he had not been hitting much most of the season. I think a little bit with McNeil is the pressure of the contract that he signed last offseason. I think that pressure has gotten to him to a certain degree. And the Mets' biggest issue, really, two things, really, is they need to improve the pitching, and they need another hitter in the middle of this lineup that can support Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. They need help. That is not a big issue. And obviously with the reach that Steve Cohen is willing to spend his money, the Mets are very much willing to spend money in other places than in North America and in other places other than the Western Hemisphere. This pitcher Yamamoto that plays in Japan is the next big import to come to MLB. He is a guy the Mets are going to go after in a hard way. I've heard him mentioned with the Mets, and I've heard him also mentioned with the Diamondbacks. The Mets will not be outbid from the Diamondbacks. So if the Mets were to bring him in here, and he's 24 years old, you're bringing a prospect, pretty much. A lot of the prospects that come to the major leagues are usually around 22, 23, 24. So he'll be coming in here with all this experience in Japan, all this hardware that he's won, all these ERA titles and strikeout titles, and people talk a lot about him being better than Kodai Senga. And of course, there are other players that are going to be available. There's a big Japanese player that's going to be out there. There's going to be a big everyday player. I forget his name. He's an everyday player in Japan. He broke the home run record there for 1 year. So these guys are going to be always available to the Mets in terms of spending money. Steve Cohen's not afraid to spend the money. And this farm system has improved greatly. A couple of things about the Mets farm system. They just, graduated Francisco Alvarez. Can't forget about him. He's 21 years old. He's kind of worn down, so we're not going to see much of him like we had. But he is a star in the making. I think we've seen that now. He's a tremendous offensive player, and he's a tremendous defensive catcher. He's going to win a Gold Glove. He's going to win a lot of accolades and awards over the next few years. He's excellent as a player. He's an impact player. So when you have a young player of that note, now the issue, like I said, is the pitching. They have to do something with it. Like I said, they signed Yamamoto. I could see them going after a guy like, say, Aaron Nola and put him in there as a guy who was an innings eater, and then you're on your way. And this has nothing, obviously, to do with Shohei Ohtani. That's a separate issue. That's more on the ownership side, whether he wants to and is able to convince Ohtani to sign here. We will see. That's going to be a big storyline in the offseason. Now, the New York Yankees. Let's see where they are. They've not had a losing record since 1992. They've not been a last place team since 1991. The Stump Merrill Yankees. And Yankee fans are very spastic. They're very angry. The anger has risen. It's weird. With us Met fans, we were pissed off in May. I was pissed off in May. I'm not so mad anymore because now it's almost like the balloon's let out. The air's out of the balloon. But with the Yankee fans, it's sort of been a rising kind of tide. So the anger of the Yankee fans is so incredibly palatable that there's apathy in the ballpark. There's no anger anymore. Now, the Yankees have struggled for a long time over the last few years in beating the Houston Astros. They've never found a way to do things they need to do to overcome that team. Okay? They've had the same team pretty much since 2017, with Aaron Judge being the centerpiece of that team. Now, you have a problem with this team. They're an older team. They have had injuries to their first baseman. Aaron Judge missed time because he hurt his toe from running into the bullpen door in Dodger Stadium. DJ LeMahieu was shot. Josh Donaldson is shot. Giancarlo Stanton is shot. He's got 5 more years on his contract. Now, ownership doesn't seem to have the wherewithal or the palate to eat the money and get something in return like Steve Cohen has done. The contract to Giancarlo Stanton has absolutely strangled the Yankees, and is going to continue to strangle them. And obviously, the ownership situation between the Mets and the Yankees is very different. The ownership at the Mets is very vibrant, it's very active, is living in reality. The Yankee ownership doesn't want to handle the reality. The rumor was that the Yankees were going to they wanted to make moves. They wanted to get rid of some of these veteran players. And Hal Steinbrenner, the son of George Steinbrenner, said no. So that's why they made trades for these 2 middle relievers. You have an older team. Their farm system is actually quite mediocre, from what I understand. Anthony Volpe has been a disappointment for a lot of people, a lot of Yankee fans. He came in with a guy that was going to be a top-of-the-order force. He's been none of that. In fact, he's batting in the middle of the order because they've been suffering offensively in the middle of the order. He only has about 20-something stolen bases. He's a kid that's stolen a lot of bases in the minor leagues. His defense at shortstop is dreadful. He doesn't get on base enough. There's obviously an issue here with the farm system. The Yankees have not developed a minor league pitcher of note since probably Andy Pettitte. So we're talking about 1995. That's almost 30 years ago. The Mets obviously have developed pitchers in the past. Obviously, 2015 was full loaded with pitchers that they developed. Noah Syndergaard, Steven Matz, Jacob deGrom, Matt Harvey, Jeurys Familia. All these guys developed through the Mets farm system as starters, and they came up to the major leagues. Obviously, they put Familia into the bullpen once he got here. But the Yankees have not developed any pitching of any note in a very long time. I don't count Severino. I don't count Domingo Germán, who's on the, he's in like alcohol rehab The Yankees have all these problems. They're sort of stuck with their investors, which is the people that are their partners at the S Network. They want to have a profit, so they can't move any of these contracts. And obviously, the Steinbrenner family doesn't have independent wealth other than from the team, so they have a very luxurious lifestyle, from what I understand. So the Yankees have a problem. The Yankees have a big problem. How do they build their team for the future and go with it? There's obvious problems with the front office. There's problems with the minor league system. There's been all kinds of rumors about it, that players aren't taught fundamentals. They're taught analytics. No fundamental. You gotta have some fundamentals. Analytics is a tool used like anything else, but they're not taught fundamentals. Well, I mean, I don't know where this is going with the Yankees, but this is my take on the compare and contrast of the Mets versus the Yankees. Now, if you're watching this video, please let me know what you think. Who is going to be good next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? It seems the Mets are going to be, in my view. It's not because I'm a Met fan. The Mets are going to be bad. I tell you. I was telling you folks on the Baseball Hut that they were bad in May. I was complaining in April that they was dragging themselves. So I give it to you straight. So I'm telling you, this team is in very good shape for the next 3-4 years and beyond. Because you have an owner that's willing to get rid of players if he has to. He's not afraid of it. Hal Steinbrenner, he's not his father. His father would have gotten rid of everybody. And the general manager's not going anywhere. And who the hell knows what's going on with Aaron Boone? You let me know what you think about this video. Of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.